Today, I'm going to share with you my methods and approach to dealing with design feedback to help you be more effective in the design process. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Brandon. I'm a pragmatic UX leader with over 20 years experience in the design trenches. And on this channel, I share solutions to everyday problems based on my experience, without the fluff. Today, I'm going to share with you the mindset and approach that I use when gathering feedback about my designs that has really served me well over my career. Let's dive in. Feedback can be difficult to deal with, but don't take it as a personal attack. People aren't always great communicators, but that doesn't mean they're telling you they don't like you as a person. It just means you need to help them communicate better and structure their feedback in a way you can understand or is beneficial. You can't be married to your work, and if you are, you need a divorce, annulment, or whatever ASAP, because that mindset will crush you as a designer. The very first time I met my boss at ADP, we were in a workshop doing some brainstorming and I was sharing a couple of ideas. I don't remember what the exact feedback was, but in front of everybody, I crumpled up my paper and threw it in the trash. She was shocked and was like, "Why did you do that?" And I said, based on the feedback, it wasn't going to solve the problem. So let's work together and figure out a solution that does solve the problem. I wasn't trying to be dramatic, but that's just the way I am. If this doesn't work, then don't waste more time on it. Figure out a better solution. Also, when asking for feedback, avoid the one good thing for every two bad things or two good things for every one bad thing rule, whatever it is. You should want to know all the bad because that's how you get better. I hate sitting there hearing how awesome something is because the reality is people don't like to hurt others' feelings. But I've seen far too many feedback sessions go silent from a rule like this because the barrier to provide feedback just became too high, and now you're no longer getting people's gut reactions or honest feedback. I always say feedback goes into three buckets: useful, not useful, and might be useful in the future. There can also be a fourth bucket for I need to investigate that more, but generally that stuff falls into the it might be useful in the future bucket. You can then use the feedback to iterate, but you have to choose how to apply it. Don't just apply it all at once, maybe save some for future iterations. There's a method I like called the 5 whys, which can help you decide which bucket the feedback goes into. I used this for years and I didn't even realize it was a real method until I found it in a book at one point. I'll probably make a video on this in the future because it's a powerful tool in and of itself. Basically, at its core, you need to always ask why someone is providing a certain piece of information. Having the ability to categorize, analyze, and decide when to apply feedback can be the key to success as a designer. Feedback gives you insight into an individual's point of view, which can help later in selling an idea, because now you're beginning to understand the driving force or the motivation behind certain pieces of feedback. Don't forget to use feedback as a learning experience. Could you have better prepared for this line of feedback or questioning? I like to tell people that one of my superpowers is prior to going into feedback sessions, I've tried to think of as many questions or concerns that might come up as possible and have some type of response prepared for each. That doesn't mean I think of everything, and I rarely use everything I've thought of, but the exercise is still useful because it helps you think on your feet. For better or worse, feedback may be weighted depending on where it's coming from. A CEO's feedback might carry more weight than your peers, and it's nothing personal. We've all been in that situation. That isn't to say just apply any hippo's feedback willy-nilly, but there are times you're going to have to suck it up and deal with it. It happens to the best of us. It doesn't make you any less of a designer, it's just a fact of life. But I still use it as an opportunity to understand more about their motivation behind the feedback. Maybe they know something that isn't known by everybody else yet. I know, you've worked so hard on your design only to have somebody beat it to a bloody pulp in one meeting, but don't let the feedback discourage you. Think of it as a path you'll walk for every project, and eventually you'll learn to navigate the more treacherous parts. I like to approach it like bosses in video games. Each boss has its own attacks and mechanics to beat it, but as you play the game more, you can begin to see the patterns of attacks and anticipate how to dodge, or even how to counterattack more effectively. Always fight for your ideas, but know when to let them go. I'm a firm believer in the practice of CYA. I prefer to have documentation, and the more public the better. Now, I don't use this to point fingers because that's not my style. And honestly, that's a good way to get on people's bad side, but I use it more as a shield to say I voiced my concerns but was overridden at some point along the way, and here are the points where I voiced my concerns. Then others can dig deeper to figure out who's responsible on their own and take any necessary action that they feel is warranted. Every now and then you'll have individuals that like to show up to just one meeting and drop a bombshell after not attending any other meetings. In these instances, I usually make an effort to seek their feedback regularly to prevent this, especially if they can turn the tide of the conversation against you. Depending on how big their voice is, I may even try to get them on my side prior to the meeting so that they can help turn the tide of the conversation in my favor. The moral of the story is feedback is one of our most valuable resources as UX pros. Don't squander it and don't take it personal. Unless it's personal, then I would say that sounds like a personal problem to me and you're on your own. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.